Hello, everybody. This is Zach Said It Again. I'm your host, Zach Cooley, and it is an honor for me to be here with musician extraordinaire and Blaine County native Albert Newberry. Having toured all over the country, Mr. Newberry performed a fabulous Christmas program with his friend and musician partner and also Blaine County native Casey Lewis. They did a fantastic program at St. Paul's Episcopal Church. Albert, thank you for being with me today. It's an honor to have you on the show.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Zach.
So, obviously, the talent that you have is not something that can be taught. Obviously, you were born with that. So, how soon was it that you were playing music?
Well, it's interesting. My dad has kind of gotten back into music recently due to me. But,
Mm-hmm.
growing up, so it was about 8 years old that I was taken to a piano lesson. And I didn't want to do it either. I did not like it until later.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just forced to do it. A lot of parents think their kids should learn an instrument, and they just take them to lessons. And my mom's Russian, and everybody's got to learn piano. If you're a Russian parent, piano or maybe violin or something. So I started taking lessons, didn't like it, and then somewhere 10 or 11 years old, I started improvising, and that's what I liked. I liked doing my own thing at the piano,
Mm-hmm.
and then I sort of took off. And then I came back to classical, and only after I had done my own music where I started understanding, well, these pieces by these dead people, those guys also wrote music like I'm doing, and that's the only way that I got back into it. And of course, jazz, once I learned that you could improvise, and then that's how it sort of took off. Well, my dad was not playing music when I was growing up, and no one in the household was, really.
And your mother, I need to mention really quickly here,
Yes,
is
yes.
is Christina Gorcheva Newberry, the internationally best-selling author of The Orchard novel
Yes,
and
yes.
other very wonderful works. She is where I aspire to be as a writer, where we all aspire to be, and
Oh, I appreciate that. I'll let her know. I'll
and
send her this.
and very rightly so. A brilliant lady. So you come from two very brilliant parents. It's no wonder that you would be a musical genius in and of yourself. Um, it's a very interesting story how your parents met, because the first thing people are going to do when if they don't know you, most people around here do. For those who don't, can you please explain how this Southwest Virginia boy is half Blaine County and half Russia?
Yes, yes. Well, you see, most people, when they first hear about it, they
Mm.
say, well, she's probably a mail order bride. But that is actually not what happened.
That is
So,
that couldn't be farther from the truth.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, well, basically, my dad was into hang gliding. And there was a big hang gliding community here about 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And, now I don't, not so much just here in our area, but he actually went on a trip through a program that Eisenhower started called People to People. And for whatever reason, the tax dollars were spent on um, hang gliders going over. I don't know how many tax dollars were spent, maybe not. But anyway, it went over to Russia. And my mom was actually the tour guide on this hang gliding trip, and the translator. She was the translator, and so her English English was, as you can understand, already good because that's her job. And so they got to know each other on that trip. And then he came back home and he invited her over. And this is the 90s. And that's when she came over, and the rest is history.
And you are the product of that historical hang gliding trip.
Yes.
Are you an only child? I believe you are, right?
Yes, I'm an only child. Yeah.
So music obviously pours out of you.
Yeah.
All genres. When you are from Wythe County, everything is bluegrass. So there is an obvious talent for that. I do not mean to diss that for what it is, because it is the heart of our region, but it is pummeled into our brain cells. But what I really appreciate about you, sir, is that you took this obviously talented country and bluegrass guy and made him play blues and jazz, and you forced him to expand his knowledge. Maybe you didn't force him, but that was a wonderful thing to see, that you are adding that, because I loved that your father got up and played Georgia on My Mind and Van Morrison's Moon Dance at this backing up this bluegrass guy.
Well, of course, we're talking about Casey Lewis. Right.
Yes, who is obviously talented. Yeah. And I did not get to meet him, unfortunately, but I really appreciated the eclectic nature of the program. Because I do have to admit, I wanted to hear you play. I wanted to come to your program at the Ghost Light Bourbon Bar. But the only one I could make, because obviously I cannot drive myself, was the 4 o'clock program on Saturday the 20th, because I had to go across the street to the Millwald for the Drifters show that night. So, So in order to make both, I had to do the 4 o'clock. And I have to admit that I went in to the program and I heard Casey playing, and I thought, oh God, another bluegrass program. But he.
So you go to a lot of bluegrass programs?
I do not per se, but when you are a reviewer of local programs for the last 20 years, and you cover local things in Wythe County, you're going to catch a lot of bluegrass.
Yes. Well, see, for me, like you said, you appreciate that I got Casey to do jazz. That's kind of when we met, is what happened. I forget how we started playing together, but it was during the pandemic, and we were both back home, and I showed him some jazz. He knew some. There were some jazz tunes that he knew, and he even had some. He had learned some jazz licks and chord voicing and stuff. So I think that kind of comes through. There's been a jazz presence in bluegrass. There's been a little bit. I think that Tony Rice covering a lot of jazz tunes, that made its way. So he knew Tony Rice's versions of some of those songs. But then what I did, so I would bring up all these jazz tunes, and you didn't come to the gig after that. Was just across the street at the Presbyterian. We played Mozart over there, so I made him do classical too.
Mm-hmm.
But what's great about Casey is then he turned me on to bluegrass because first of all, we grew up, it's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, as a classical and jazz sort of, actually a snob at one point,
right.
I was like that. I was like, well, that's just that's just two or three chords, 1,
right.
4, and 5. And I was like, well, I'm not listening to that. But only once I was in New York and I was so far away from home, I start putting on bluegrass and, or old time ballads or some of that and listening, and I would get nostalgic that way. And so when I was home, Casey sort of introduced me to that, because on the piano, you just don't play that stuff.
Right.
Normally, there's no bluegrass piano. It's very rare, except for maybe you've heard of Jeff Little, who's also from our area. So he kind of introduced me to that and the gospel, because I didn't know as many gospel songs either. And I introduced him to the jazz and the classical stuff, and we started just blending all the genres in a way that, I know some classical jazz people wouldn't like and some bluegrass people wouldn't like, but I'm glad there are people that do like it.
But I said all that to say that Casey Lewis can play what would be considered a country or bluegrass song, and he can play it with those jazz licks or those classical licks or even those blues licks that make it more palatable for those of us that prefer that type of music. And the fact that the two of you can play together and create, you could throw anything at the two of you, like the Dark Times Russian ballad, which pays tribute.
Yes, Dark Eyes.
Yes, I got that wrong in the article, and I said it wrong there. Dark Eyes, Russian ballad, in which you pay tribute to your Russian heritage via your mother. And Carol of the Bells, which is a beautiful, very classical, very intense piece of music that you wouldn't ordinarily connect with a country guitar. It's been done that way, but the way that both of you played it and blended it together, like the first thing that I thought of when you were playing was Vince Guaraldi. That's the first thing that came to my mind. That did that great piano music for the Charlie Brown Christmas, and
right.
And then it was very, not so ironic, I suppose, that you would end the show with that. Which
people love that. The Linus and Lucy song. Everybody loves that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what's interesting about that music by Vince Guaraldi is that that's some of the most mainstream jazz to ever have. Think about it. There's very little jazz that all Americans know, and all Americans, have heard and would actually put on,
right,
and listen to, and those are they're just straight up jazz,
right.
The Linus and Lucy one, it's got boogie elements too, but if you take Skating, which everyone loves that, so we did that one at another gig, and then Christmas Time Is Here. Those are just jazz. Mm-hmm. They're just, the chords are jazz, everything's jazz, but they are mainstream. They're really popular.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was like the only other jazz person that was in the mainstream in my lifetime that I know of was Kenny G. And people,
of course. Now, that's a totally different.
People nowadays wouldn't even know who he is, but But
smooth jazz. Yeah.
But the fact that I think they got lucky that it got lumped in with a popular television Christmas special that put it in the mainstream, but thank God it did, because we have this beautiful piece now that everybody knows.
Yeah, I'm happy about it.
And certainly. And the band that you played with in Indiana.
Yes.
The leader had the original composition. Yes. Tell me what kind of band they were.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about them briefly because we have an album coming very soon. And I could share some stuff with you. You could listen to, just knowing that it's not yet released. You wouldn't be able to share it, but I would love for you to take a look. This band is called American Pirates. Mm-hmm. When I lived in Indiana, I did my master's there, and then I stayed there for a year. Incredible musicians. Again, it's like I met Casey, and he opened me up to new types of music for me. And then when I went there, they continued to. I met these people, and they got into their band, and they continued to push me in sort of different directions. So it's a big band. There's 8 people in it, and they're not always all there, but there's 8 people. The instrumentation, a lot of these people play multiple instruments. We have a guy who plays either bass, tuba, or ukulele. He plays all that. And then there's a guy who plays guitar. Then there's a guy who plays trombone and drums. And then there's harmonica. There is accordion. And then there's some guests on the album play. There's saxophone. Anyway, there's a lot going on. And of course, there's piano. These the American Pirates are led by Aaron Jones. He's the guy who started it. He is the guy who arranged "Joy to the World," which you heard. Mm-hmm. And so I would say that this album mixes. You've never heard anything like it. It mixes early jazz, 20s and 30s, like a Dixieland jazz feel, with some folk music and singer-songwriter. And there's a lot of originals. But a lot of these people, pretty much, not everyone actually, a lot of these people have a classical background as well, went to conservatory. Aaron Jones is actually a harpsichordist, and so there is even Bach on the album. And you were talking about eclectic earlier. Well, this is going to be right up your alley if you like it, eclectic. There is also gospel on the album. I have a solo track, which is improvisation on What a Friend We Have in Jesus. So that is the album. Like I said, it's coming soon. We are on social media, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And we are gearing up to release a single pretty soon.
So the album comes out when?
It will be coming out, hopefully, by Valentine's Day.
Okay, and it is called?
Well, actually, we don't know what the album's going to be called. Most likely, it will be titled American Pirates.
It's an eponymous.
Eponymous, yes.
It's an eponymous album. I would love to do a story on it when it comes out.
That would be amazing. I think that you're going to like it. I think you're going to like it a lot.
Review it. Do whatever you need me to do to help with that.
Absolutely. I'll send it your way. I mean, I'll let you listen to it a little bit soon.
Well, I would be quite honored. So that was fantastic. But I have to say that your dad getting up and playing harmonica to those two great songs. It must be really something special, and it must really mean something to him. He must be, well, I know he is because I've interviewed him before, but I know he is so incredibly proud of you, and it must really mean something to be up there playing with him. And
absolutely.
And you being the one to have him revisit his talents,
Yeah. I mean, he was a drummer in high school,
Mm.
and he played bass too, and he was in a band. It's called the Undertakers.
Right.
People in Blaine County would know.
Yeah.
And then I guess you probably are. You must be aware of the sideshows that have been happening.
That's when I interviewed him.
Right.
Because I got the sideshow on the front page a couple of years ago. So.
Right.
And that's when I first became acquainted with you.
Well, see, because of the sideshows and because of Mark Newberry, who really he had moved away, he returned and got this going. He said, let's bring the bands back together. My dad was reluctant at first, but I said, I want to play with you, and we'll play together. I'll be in the band. And and Casey was in it as well. We're all in it. And he was playing drums, but he was also playing harmonica, and now he plays harmonica regularly in the Central Pickers. But I'm really lucky to have gotten to play with him, and every time a sideshow came around, I would fly out here or drive out here, even though I wasn't living here, just to do it because it's a great pleasure, and maybe that is where I get my musical talent. So and the sideshow, there was a lot of Newberries involved, but that's just the way things are in Wytheville, Blaine County.
It sure is. And Newberry happens to be one of the prominent names of Blaine County. That's, but it's wonderful that that what I think really is special about that is that instituted the Blaine County Music Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Which Wythe County needs one, in my opinion. But I think that is an incredible thing that was instituted. And I know that your father and your family had a great deal to do with that, and that is such a commendable thing. Something I was very glad to see and very happy to support. I'm sorry that I've not been able to make a sideshow yet, but I do hope to at some point.
Well, we're hoping for next summer at. I don't know if it's okay to say this. I think that this is definitely a go, but in Bland this time at the fair, combined with the fair, this is a big year. I think this is a big anniversary of the fair, maybe 100th anniversary. I'm not sure, but
okay.
Going back to New York in about a week, it was good to be here and do these concerts. We had them lined up every day, so today was the last one this morning.
That's one question I wanted to ask you. You're in New York and you're playing music all the time. Yeah. That's your job now. You're working in one of the toughest cities in the world as a gigging musician. So you would think when you come home, if you have time to visit family at all, that you would just want to visit family. But music pours out of you so much that you're scheduling. I mean, you had 2 shows in the same day, the day that I saw you. So, is it just that you have to play, or is it that you want to share it with your family and with the community, or is it all those things?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. First, I moved to New York earlier this year. Of course, I'd been there before, but I moved back, and I needed work fast, and breaking into the gigs there is actually really hard because there's a lot of competition.
Sure.
So immediately I start teaching. I'm in several schools, and then I work at 2 universities, accompanying, and then I teach at a daycare. So I teach a lot of music, and teaching is my bread and butter, and I gig, maybe once a week. But these are just special concerts. First of all, the people that come to them are, well, not everyone. I don't know everyone, but I like my friends and family to be able to come. And then I love playing with Casey. It's very special. Playing with my dad, it's very special. Buddy Taylor, very special. The other gigs I had, Brian Mesco, very special guy. So it's just not the same. In New York, I don't have anyone yet that is that that our roots go deep and that we've played together for so long and that we just love making music. In New York, it's a lot of hustle, and you're called to play a certain thing in a certain place. But here, we just enjoy ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We enjoy performing, and so I wouldn't pass that out. I told my friends in New York, I'll say, I'm going home to play all these concerts and, of course, be with my family. But it's one of the best things I do with my family.
But that is part of being with your family, because your family is so musical and talented and all those wonderful things. Tell me a little bit about Buddy Taylor.
Well, Buddy Taylor, he's like a grandpa to me.
Mm-hmm.
I never really had a grandpa, and he and his wife, his late wife, Beverly Taylor, since I was little, they've come over for Christmas Eve. So, since before I was born. So they've probably been doing that for like 30 years. And they guided my mom a lot when she moved to America. So they're just like family. They live really close in Bland, and he is, I think, one of the best people I've ever met. I think he's incredible. He does everything for everyone in the community. Everyone knows him. The man is in his 80s, but works at the mission here, the Bland Mission, packing food for families every day. And he'll do anything. He'll be mowing people's lawn. He'll be taking people to the doctor. He'll be, and then as it turns out, he sings well. And so we started doing some music together.
And no matter if you could ever sing well in your lifetime, to still sing well in your 80s is miraculous.
I know, and he remembers all the songs. He has them by memory and by heart.
Yeah.
And so that is just, that's what I aspire to be when I'm his age.
Right. We all want to be, like Bonnie Raitt, who's 75 and still looks 30 and is out there touring, and all these. I just saw Gladys Knight and Patti LaBelle on tour. Both of them are 81 and can still sing.
Wow.
It's just that to me is amazing.
Music does definitely do something for, if with a lot of the stars, if the drugs and the party lifestyle don't get to you, then the music can really keep you young. So
and if you have the gift that God gives you and you take care of it properly, boy does it serve you well.
Yes, you should. Yeah, take care of it properly. It's a good way to put it. There's people ask me after every concert. They said, "Well, don't your hands get tired or something?" But the thing is, if your hands are hurting, then you are not taking care of it properly. You're probably doing something wrong. So, but I get tired. In fact, I notice I lose weight. I will be playing, say every day, and you get into this rhythm, and you're not even thinking about things that you should be, food, and hygiene stuff. You're just practicing, and then you do that can be unhealthy. So you do have to take care of yourself.
Well, if only I could take piano lessons, because I could stand to be half the size I am. But there we are. This is just, it comes down to you either got it or you don't. And my friend, you have it, sir.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for having me, Zach. This is amazing.